right now we are going to find out how to shoot some great-looking movies and television shows. Please join me in welcoming our guest, Corey Robson, who is a director of photography and a cinematographer. Come on up, Corey. How you doing, my friend?
Good, how are you?
I'm very good. Now, Corey and I actually have known each other for a bunch of years, but we've never had a discussion in front of the camera, and I was just waiting, I guess, for the right time to do that. And I thought that this was going to be a perfect place to do that. We're in the Vancouver Film School, which is at 390 West Hastings in Vancouver, if you're ever out in the Vancouver area.
Yeah, it's a great space.
And you have shot all over this area, haven't you?
Yeah, many times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Arrow is one of the big projects that you've worked on in your career.
Yep.
How long did you work on Arrow?
I was on Arrow for 5 years. We started on the pilot. I was the digital imaging technician at the beginning. And then, season 3, I took over as one of the directors of photography.
Awesome.
So,
What's cool about the way that you worked on Arrow, though, you also worked on Smallville, too. Yeah. And you were doing digital imaging technology back then, too?
Yeah. So
they call that the DIT, right? Or,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so explain what that is.
That's a position for the person that handles all the media on the show. They are in charge of helping the directors of photography create unique looks for each scene, and just coming up with potential looks that they just don't have time to develop on the day themselves. So it's like it works. You work closely with the lighting to try and bring out what they're really trying to go for in the scene.
Is that a position to try to speed up the process of getting everything done? Is that something? Because television works so quickly, right? So is that what it's about? Is finding the technology to get the stuff looking as good as possible, as quickly as possible?
Yeah, exactly. When I first started, and it was pretty new, and I think it was a different role in those days. It was like the early 2000s when the HD cams were first coming out. Yeah. And you kind of had to commit to the look a lot more than you did with later cameras. Sure. Because it was getting burned onto the tape. So back then you had to be very careful with what you did because it was permanent and there was not much going back from it once you committed. So, but over time it changed into being a non-destructive process, which was great. It allowed a lot more freedom to experiment. And that was on top of your duties of like maintaining the media integrity, and making multiple copies for everybody, and making sure that there's insurance backups and that sort of stuff. But which I was just I sort of ended when I finished. It was more of a way to help cinematographers.
Get their look,
I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
That's awesome. Did you know that you were going to be a director of photography, or explain what the difference is between DOP and cinematography? Okay.
It's a tough one.
And what do you prefer?
Well, I think director of photography is probably the more common term in Canada, anyway. Okay. But I think it feels like it's somewhat of a limiting title. Okay, we're really not doing stills photography, so it sort of involves a lot more than that. And I think cinematographer is a more all-encompassing kind of title. Yeah, for sure. For it, so that's sort of
it's easier to say too.
Yeah, yes. I think so.
So we're going to stick with cinematography.
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to be a cinematographer when you were in film school back in the day?
That's what I was aiming for.
Okay.
Yeah, I always felt very comfortable with cameras. When I was a kid, my dad was one of the first around to have a Sony Betacam. Yeah. And when he was at work, I would play with it. And
was he in the business?
No, not at all. But he just bought it for something to do, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. But that's awesome. But it was fun. So by the time I finished high school, I was pretty familiar with digital cameras, and then my brother actually got me in the business. So he was a kid actor and landed a role in a Jack Palance movie that was being shot in Regina.
No way.
And so I got to go visit set, and I thought that was the greatest thing ever. And then I just pursued things after that.
Is he still acting?
No.
No? No. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, well, talk to me about, you worked on Smallville, which I loved.
Yep.
I loved that show.
Yeah.
And then you saw Arrow coming, which I think was a bit of a surprise how successful it was. Did you guys know, like when you were shooting the pilot and putting the first episodes together, did you know how big it was going to be?
No, but, well, it felt pretty special at the time, but we didn't know it would grow into like this multiverse of different projects.
Yeah. Were you skeptical because you had been a part of Smallville and you maybe felt like it had crested already and they were trying to kind of get fire from the same place again?
I think so. I think everybody was kind of skeptical because what they were trying to do was take the whole action element of Smallville and take it up a notch and have it more grounded in reality, which all those things are great, but they take a lot more time.
Yes.
And we didn't have, they didn't want to do it with visual effects as much.
Right.
Because of the Green Arrow's character is just not that kind of character.
Yes.
And when they shot the pilot, it just worked so well.
Yeah.
They had a great creative team on that pilot, and they obviously had a lot of success.
So you worked on the show for 5 years, and you started it as a DIT.
Yep.
And then when did you make the move over to cinematography?
It started season 3, so that was Glenn Winter, who was one of the DPs on the show. He took off to just direct full time.
Yep.
And so I was.
So he was the DOP, or he was the cinematographer, and then he relinquished the position.
Yeah. With a lot of shows, there's 2 cinematographers. So there's Gord Verhoeven was the other one.
Okay.
And Glenn Winter was the one that I replaced. So Glenn went off to do Flash, directing the pilot, and that sort of left a little spot for me to get in.
That's awesome.
And then he decided to just direct full time the next season. So then that fell into place.
I'm a fan of the whole Arrowverse, so I watch all of these shows, and it's incredible how they've grown and how they've become a big part of the production in the city.
Oh yeah.
Was there a rivalry between the different production camps? You know, would you be looking at what the Flash team was doing and the Supergirl team was doing? And so, well, we got to make this, we got to tweak this. Or?
You know, honestly, no. We were very close to the Flash crews because we were right across the street from each other. But no, we would all sort of collaborate on the crossover episodes, and exchange notes and things like that. But it was never. We sort of wanted to keep Arrow looking like Arrow, and Flash was a little more light and different in that way. So it sort of kept its look to itself. And yeah, I think they carved out a really good, unique look for each show.
You did, absolutely. And I want to talk about that. Like, how do you know what direction to go, and how do you kind of create? You almost have to create like a visual style guide or a Bible for the way that these shows are supposed to look, and they're supposed to also kind of reflect the comic books to a degree too, right?
Yeah, they do try to stay true to the comic element of it for sure.
Yeah.
But I was in a position where the look was already established by the time I started shooting.
Sure.
So I was just trying to keep things consistent to what was already done. But at the same time, the producers were extremely generous with their support and just saying, hey, you know what, if it looks cool, go for it.
Yep.
Try new things. Let's keep pushing this as far as we can to see what you can do. And they were great.
Awesome.
I don't know.
You guys, the show, like your show, Arrow, doesn't really rely, or your old show, doesn't really rely on visual effects as much as Supergirl or as Flash does, but there is a tremendous amount of stunt work.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a tremendous, I think, amount of work to capture it on film, to get it on the day.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit of, what that meant for you guys. Like, what would be a typical start time, and how exhausted would you be shooting one of these, massive fight sequences?
Well, the show was definitely challenging because we have, 50 pages, around 50 pages of script to shoot every 8 or 9 days. And then,
wow.
But then on top of that, you have these every episode had at least 2 big stunt sequences.
Yeah.
And depending on the time of year, you've maybe got 8 or 9 hours of of darkness to shoot these in at night. So, so it was just a race to make sure that we could get it all done in time, and that took a lot of coordination on the prep side of things with everybody making sure that they haven't missed anything. We're trying to get all the details in place so that when we show up and there's a lot of lives on the line even with these stunts that they go without a hitch.
Yeah.
And it just meant you had to really be on your game for prep.
Was there ever any big accident or anything like that while you were on the show?
Yeah, there were definitely some injuries. And unfortunately, but everybody's the people that I'm thinking of, they recovered.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Yeah. What happens? Because none of us are really lucky enough to be on these sets, right? I know it's a tremendous amount of work for you guys, but I think everybody's kind of curious what happens when something goes wrong? What do you guys do? And you've got still 45 pages to get done in 9 days.
Yeah. Well, there's always first aid on set, and if it's a big stunt, they'll have like an ambulance right there, just off camera, ready to go with technicians just standing by. And when it does happen, the crew stays away, let the professionals come in, take care of it, and yeah, that's sort of, just leave it to them.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then if we can continue, that's great. If not, we do something else.
You made a lot of episodes, and I'm wondering if they start to blur into each other, or if there is like one or two or a moment in the show that just stands out for you, that it has been maybe one of your career highlights.
Oh gosh, there's, oh my God, I have to think about that for a while. Boy, I think, oh my God.
Think about it.
Yeah, let me get back to you on that.
Okay.
There's like 34 episodes. So.
Yes, I know you did tons, and I know it's hard work, and you're away from your family, and your family has to kind of give up you every night, right? Because you're off working all the time.
Yeah,
which isn't easy, and you're living the night owl thing, and you could kind of see that when Stephen Amell announced that it was time for him to move on. You could kind of see that he'd done lots and lots of these episodes. What was he to work? Like, what was he like to work with? Was he?
Oh, Stephen was great.
Yeah.
I just saw him in Whistler on the weekend, but yeah, he's always been pushing the show as far as he can. I don't think there's anybody else on set that has an encyclopedic knowledge of the show that he does. Like, he remembers continuity from season 1 on certain things. Like, he was very invested in the show and gave it his all every episode. And I think that after 7 years, is going into their 8th season is no small thing.
Yeah.
It's a huge amount of energy it takes to do that, and it's, especially with his workout routine, and just he's got that element too. We don't have that. We just
you don't have to take your shirts off
when
you're behind the camera.
No, exactly. It's a lot easier for us. But.
Tell me, what you guys do behind the camera physically, though, because you've got to kind of set these shots up to be as dynamic as a lot of the action that you're doing. You're putting the camera in weird places. You're trying to. Cameras.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a lot of running and chasing and wearing, Steadicam rigs and
Yeah, with that show for sure. It was a heavy action show, so there was lots of cameras on the stunt sequences, obviously, and lots of running around. You try to have all those things mapped out with your director in prep, so that when you show up on set, it's not a total surprise.
Yeah.
You hopefully have a really great game plan going in, and if nothing crazy happens, you'll make your day at the end of it. And
awesome. As a comic book fan, it was very special to watch Arrow kind of deliver, because I was one of those skeptical people that thought, okay, how are we going to have lightning strike twice? Smallville was cool, but Arrow was really fantastic, and it felt very special, and of course led to all of these other great shows too.
Yeah.
But how was it for you, as being a part of the the creative entourage, to put this all together, to sit down and watch the show air for the first time?
Oh, it was pretty cool. We had a screening, and it just felt more cinematic than we thought it would. It was very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, we were surprised when they greenlit it, especially after we saw it, but it was we didn't know it would go for 8 seasons. That's a pretty big feat. So.
Well, one of the things that I liked about the show too is that the family in front of the camera seemed to expand quite a bit.
Yep.
And we also saw that a lot of the people behind the camera, like James Bamford, who was part of the stunt crew, ended up becoming a director on the show as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he had a huge influence on the show over the years. I think he got killed on camera in the pilot, but behind the scenes, he's been a powerhouse, just pushing for bigger stunts. As much action as you can squeeze into every episode.
Totally.
Yeah, and they've kept them on, like, just, hey, do what you're doing, because it's working.
Yeah,
so.
It's so necessary for that show. Now, you've been working on The Magicians on Sci-Fi, which also has a big physical component, but more special effects. And I'm curious, what are some of the lessons that you took from Arrow into The Magicians, and how is that show different from Arrow?
Well, I think it's... I think anytime you have a script that has a lot of fantastical elements to it, like those two shows do.
Yep.
It sort of means that you have to keep your visuals more grounded, so that because you're trying to sell the audience something that is impossible, but as long as they can relate to something in the image, that feels familiar, then they're gonna buy it.
Yeah.
They're gonna go for it. So the challenge is to keep it all feeling as real as you can, and it's the same kind of thing where you've got 50 some pages of script to shoot, same sort of schedule. We actually have shorter hours on Magicians than we did on Arrow.
Okay.
But
less punches thrown.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. But there's so many different universes and worlds in that series that it makes it a bit of a pretzel in your mind sometimes to try to keep track of.
Right, because you're dealing with camera placement and lighting and tuning to kind of get the visual stuff on camera, but then it's all embellished on a computer somewhere else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We try to remember, okay, this world this is what the look is, and then you jump right into another world entirely in the next scene, like 20 minutes later, and it's sometimes a lot to keep track of, but it's so much fun. It's a very, very fun show to shoot.
Awesome. And it's filled with, it's a successful show, and I've met a lot of the cast members too, and they're crazy. They're having a good time.
Yes, they are, yeah. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a respect for you that you had come from Arrow that everybody was like, great, we got somebody that's been with a big hit show that's coming on board here?
I think so. I felt really welcomed when I was there.
Yeah.
I'm going back for season 5 in a few weeks, but yeah, it was a very welcome atmosphere, and
fantastic.
They gave me lots of time to catch up and memorize all the seasons and try and figure out how to continue it in an interesting way, because it's a pretty wild show. It's very unpredictable and really creative for myself.
Awesome. There's so many shows that get made in Vancouver.
Yeah.
There's lots and lots of production, but I'm wondering if there's, we see the crossovers on the CW shows and stuff like that, but I'm wondering if, you see crew members or cast members at parties or hanging out. Is there any kind of social time with, or are the hours so heavy that you just want to get away from all that and just go home to your family?
I think during, well, not every episode, but a lot of times we're all just pretty burnt out.
Yeah.
So we do get together and hang out from time to time, but we have so much fun on set that it feels like when it's wrapped, it's like, okay, let's go home and try and get some sleep.
It's a social job.
It is, yeah.
And then you sort of package that away and go back to real life, reality for a bit.
Yeah, for sure. But I think some of the cast that don't have families in Vancouver, they hang out more than some of the crew do.
Yes.
We're typically there longer than they are, and not always though, but yeah, it's get as much sleep as you can when you're shooting. That's for sure.
You mentioned that you got your start with technology that your dad had bought, and you sort of took over as your own, and you started to learn the ins and outs of shooting. We live now in an age of YouTube and incredible DSLR cameras and stuff, and I know lots of people that watch our programming want to know how they get into this stuff, and I'm wondering if you have any technology recommendations, if YouTube is a big factor now for trying to find a job like yours.
I think the first bit of advice would be to definitely don't worry about which camera you're shooting with. That's, I think, so overrated when it comes to somebody looking at your work, giving you a shot to do something else. Spend your money on production design, on costumes, on locations, really coming up with great shots and figure out how you're going to tell that story that you're about to shoot as creatively as possible.
Right.
There's so many cameras that can capture a great image now that, for me, it's more about lenses now than it is cameras. Like, I'll shoot with any of the major brands right now. It's like,
doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. The image quality is awesome.
Yeah.
On the bodies.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have external recorders like we did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
With, 200 feet of cable trying to move that stuff around for us, and it's so much easier now.
Do you have a recommendation? Like, if somebody was thinking, I want to start making my own movies right now and just sort of get into it, would you? Like, I know you're because I see your Instagram stuff, but you shoot on Sony cameras. Is that a favorite of yours right now? Or?
Yeah, for stills. I mean, they shoot great video. We've used the A7S and the A7R on lots of stuff. I mean, those cameras are amazing.
Do you use those on your shows sometimes too? Oh, yeah? Oh, my God, that's awesome.
They're so tiny, and they fit in places that we just can't get the big cameras in sometimes. So.
Right, and they match up with the, what do you normally shoot on Reds? Or?
Usually on Arri Minis, on Magicians, and
then you'll have a
Sony
or a Canon or something like that. And
we use Red cameras too sometimes.
Wow.
You just mix them up, and I've been lucky to work with some great colorists who can match those different brands seamlessly.
What a world, right?
You never know.
Yeah, and you would never think that, even going back 10 years, that was even possible.
No,
I mean, because we've been covering this stuff, and of course we've had to purchase tons of cameras over the years too, but I think this stuff was hinted at by these camera manufacturers, but we've got there now, haven't we?
Oh, for sure. I mean, GH5 or the A7S, I mean, those are far better than the cameras I used on features 10 years ago when I was first starting.
Crazy.
Miles better.
So it's not the camera.
No, it's not. It's honestly not. It's figure out how you're going to shoot it and focus on that. It's the camera's just a tool.
Are there specific camera techniques? Do you try to define your style when you're just getting started, or do you just try to go for simplicity and get the basics right?
I think I always let the script tell me what to do.
Okay.
You're telling a story, and I think your cinematography should really focus on trying to transport that story forward without being ostentatious or intrusive in any way. You want to really make that a seamless marriage between the two.
Right.
And
when you get handed a script for Arrow, and it's a 3-page fight scene or something like that, or it's a 5-minute fight scene in a 40-minute show, how do you shoot that? Do you go to like a bunch of awesome action movies and you say, well, they didn't, like?
No, it's all sort of driven by the scene description. What do they want to? How do they want to start it? How do they want to end it? And then we got to find a place to do it.
Yeah.
And once we find that, then it all sort of falls into place. It's like, okay, we can have 9 hours to shoot the sequence in, so great. That means probably 40, 50 setups that we can do if we really hurry. And you sort of just back into it that way. It's just watching some of these. It's
impressive.
Yeah, well, it's those were crazy nights.
Do you have the fight scenes rehearsed?
Yes.
And they know where they're going movement wise. They don't think about where the cameras are, and then they get onto set, and then you place the cameras. Is that the way?
Actually, the stunt department on Arrow was amazing at doing previses.
Yeah.
So they would shoot their own version of the action.
Wow. Okay.
And then they would send that out to the producers and ourselves, and they would say, "Hey, what do you guys think of this? This is what we'll do if you guys like it." And then we would give notes and work together with them to try and make it happen on the day.
That's amazing.
And the previses, some of the previses they should put online. They're amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're like great short films.
I mean, I'm such a huge fan of this show and comic books and all that stuff. So it's just really cool to talk with people that have been a part of creating all that.
Yeah.
What's next for you? I know that you've got a show that hasn't aired yet. What's it called?
Yep. That's I finished an NBC series called The In Between.
Okay.
So it's gonna. I'm not sure when it's going to camera to be, or when they're gonna air it. I think it's May.
Okay.
June, something like that.
Okay. Did you shoot a bunch of episodes or just the pilot episode?
I shot the pilot last spring, and then I couldn't do the series as I was doing Magicians, but I got brought on at the end to finish up the show.
Okay.
So I did an episode there and then a bunch of reshoots.
Okay.
So
is it fun to bounce from different shows, or do you want to get hooked up on one show again like you were on with Arrow?
I like changing it up. Anything that challenges you and pushes your limits and is good.
Awesome.
So I like the change.
There's a lot of TV work in town.
Yeah.
A lot to keep you busy. But I'm wondering if you've got a movie that you're sort of working on or working towards, or if that's an interest of yours. Or
I'd love to get into movies. It's I don't have one in particular lined up or anything. I'm sort of booked now until the end or mid-November.
Okay.
So I just freelance. You just take one job at a time. But I'm always looking for the next thing.
Awesome.
And if I could do a movie, I'd do it in a heartbeat, for sure.
Is there, a particular influence of yours that you would sort of encourage any up-and-coming cinematographers to kind of look out for?
Well, I think there's like arm-length people that influenced me a lot. So Glenn Winter and Gord Verhoeven were the two DPs from Arrow that I think I learned the most from.
Did Glenn Winter work on Battlestar Galactica? Seems like a familiar name.
No, I think that was Stephen McNutt.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Glenn did Smallville and sort of Gord actually. But and then, but you know, in the broader sense, you know, I think there's a lot of media online of cinematographers sharing their stories and their secrets, and listen to them. You know, they have a lot of great things to say, and can help you avoid missteps along the way. You know, I love Roger Deakins. I try to listen to anything he's got to say.
He's a genius.
He has such a variety of work under his belt, and always, you know it's going to be amazing whatever he does.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Bruno Debonel, he did Amelie back in,
that was great,
whatever year that was. That show was just still a great benchmark for cinematography. Robert Richardson did all of Oliver Stone stuff. I mean, huge influence back in the day as well. And then Vittorio Storaro in Apocalypse Now was a huge early influence for me too. What he did in that show to help you down that psychological journey is just stunning.
Awesome.
You know, so those are kind of the main guys that I can think of right now anyway.
That's good. So don't worry about the camera, and check out some of the masters, and do a lot of YouTubing and learn, and just go out and do it. Yeah, just make mistakes, and you can actually fix a lot of your mistakes later nowadays, so it's a good time to be doing this. Awesome. Corey, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.